In this video I want to show you how we can connect every API from an LLM provider that you want. Before we do that, I want to show you why this could be an option, why you should be considering to use different models from time to time. Now, generally speaking, I am a big fan of the OpenAI API. They have really good models. They are affordable and they simply work. Especially as soon as we do function calling in later videos, I think, at least right now, OpenAI offers the best models. They are the smartest with this function calling. But if you do not want to do function calling, you can use faster models, you can use cheaper models, you can play with all of this a little bit. And after the video, you will know how you can connect every single API, and you also know what API you should use when and how much they cost. Let's just start with DeepSeek and with the pricing. The pricing of DeepSeek is really cheap. Basically, we have the standard DeepSeek chat model, and this is enormously cheap, with 27 cents in 1 million token as input price in the KHMIS, and 1 million token as output price is $1.10. And if you use the DeepSeek Reasoner, you pay $55 for the input and $2.19 for the output. You already know the differences between a normal model and a reasoning model, so I don't want to dive that deep into this thing here. But generally speaking, you can use the DeepSeek API. Later I will show you how. And of course you can also use Ollama. You already know how to use Ollama. But if you want to use the biggest model and if you want to have it fast, the API is an option. If we compare this with the pricing of the OpenAI API, we have, for example, the OpenAI 01, and this costs $15 in the input and $60 in the output. Of course, this is really expensive. But if on the other hand we use O3 Mini, O3 Mini is a lot cheaper, with just 55 cents in the caged input and $1.10 with the normal input, and the output costs $4.40. I do like O3 Mini over DeepSeek a little bit more, because O3 Mini has function calling and DeepSeek has not. So it depends a bit on the application that you want to make. But generally speaking, you can use the DeepSeek models. Besides that, we have also the Gemini API. And the Gemini API is also really cheap, and if you start with the Gemini API, you can use this thing for free. So you should absolutely play with this thing a little bit. And later, as soon as you want to use this more, you have, for example, Gemini 2.0 Flash, and this 2.0 Flash model is also really cheap. So you can absolutely use this. And by the way, if you use other OpenAI models, for example, the normal GPT-4 Omni, it's also relatively cheap. And if you use GPT-4o Mini, it's also really cheap. So you will always find cheaper models also from OpenAI. Besides that, we have also Anthropic. I do not really love the Anthropic API. If you scroll down here, you see the pricing. If we use Claude 3.5 Sonnet, it costs $3 in input and $15 in the output. If we use something small like the Haiku, it's relatively cheap. But generally speaking, I do not use the Claude API or the Anthropic API a lot, but for some things it can be also relatively good. But like I said, I use mostly the OpenAI API. Then we have something other really cool. We have Groq. This thing uses an LPU instead of a GPU for inference. And this thing is enormously fast. If we use, for example, a Llama model in, for example, this interface, and I simply type in, hey, this thing answers enormously fast. So tell me a story. You will see that this thing spits out tokens on a speed that is like beyond us. And we can also use the API of these, and this API is really cheap. It's also basically for free. You can test this API for free for a little bit. Now I want to show you how we can do this. We are once again in n8n. We simply press create workflow. What I want to do is right now, I use simply an AI agent node. And with this AI agent node, we simply connect a chat model, and then we will connect all these APIs. We simply press plus on this model, and now you can see what you can connect. You can connect the Anthropic chat model, and everything that you have to do is, of course, to select credentials, so create credentials, and you need an API key. And I want to show you where you can make an API key for Anthropic. You go on console.anthropic.com/dashboard, and you simply press get API keys. And here on this API keys, you simply press create key. The workspace is default, and the name Let's just say my test. Here is that key and I can simply copy this key and close this down. If you go on your profile and then on billing, of course, you have to add funds. So you need to have some funds on this account or it will not work. So this is really important if you work with Claude. Also give here a little bit of balance. Then we come back to Anthropic. We simply throw in this API key, we press save. Then this thing is connected. And now we can simply talk with this thing. You can use the model that you like. I just use 3.5 Sonnet right now. This thing is good. This thing is great. I press on chat. Let's just open this thing. And I say, hey Claude, and I send this out. And right now we will talk with Claude. Hello, how can I assist you today? So basically this is how you can connect Claude. And Claude is also really nice for some things here on these AI agents. More on where to use Claude maybe a little bit later. For right now you know how you can connect this. So if you really love Claude, you can totally use this. Besides Claude, you can also use, for example, the Azure OpenAI model. AWS as the chat model. Then the DeepSeek chat model. This is completely new. Before this, we had to use the OpenAI chat model and give the DeepSeek credentials. But right now it's easy. We can simply press on DeepSeek, create new credentials, and give the API key from DeepSeek. So we basically simply go on DeepSeek, we press on the API platform. We have to give some credentials here, always with your credit card or with PayPal. This is really easy. Then we go on API keys here, create new API key. I just give some numbers, back into n8n, we delete this, press save, and now DeepSeek is connected. And here you can see that you can use DeepSeek Chat or DeepSeek Reasoner. And if you use the Reasoner model, of course, this thing has test time compute. Tell me a difficult math question and solve it. And this thing will now think for a while and then solves it. And there we have it. So let's just make it a bit bigger. Here we have the question and also the answer. So basically this thing has created a problem and then solved it immediately. Now the next thing that we can eventually connect is, of course, new chat model, Google Gemini chat model or Google Vertex chat model. If you simply press on Google Gemini chat model, you can connect these things. You can simply press on these, create new credentials. The host is integrated automatically and you need an API key. And you get the API key from Google AI Studios. You simply press on Get API Key, create API key. We can use a project here. Let's just use this one. We create this key. We can copy this key, come back into n8n, throw this key in here, press save. We are connected successfully. We can close this down. And now you see what models you can use. Here you find a lot of different models. And I would suggest you that you use, for example, Gemini 2.0 Flash. And if you press on these, you can use this model at least at the start completely for free. So let's just clear this chat. I simply type in hey, and this thing tells me, hey there, how can I help you today? So basically, this is how you can use the Google models. And it does not really matter what node you use here. So let's just delete this. We press plus. Google Vertex chat model, you can also use this. You simply use new credentials. The only difference is here that you need a service account email. But I just use the other model. I do not really like more complexity, so let's just delete this. Basically, these Google models, you should play with them a little bit. Just for function calling, they are not that great. Then let's just use something that is enormously quick. The Groq chat model. You press on it, of course we set new credentials, and everything that we need to do in order to do that, we go on the Groq console, we go onto the developer console, and here you find also on the left side settings, billing, and here you see that you can use this thing for free. This is enormously great. You can simply go on API keys, create key, verify that you are human, let's just say test, submit, we copy the key, come back into n8n, throw in the key here, press save. Now you are connected with Groq, and Groq is blazingly fast. It depends on what model you use. Let's just use Gemma 2, 9 billion, and then you can simply chat with this model and this will be blazingly fast. So let's just do something like this. Tell me a story about a fox, and we send this out. And you see, there it is. I have not cutted this video. This is real-time information. There is no cut in this video, this is just blazingly fast. So basically, this was Groq. And once again, plus, we could also include Mistral eventually. I do not like Mistral that much, but you can play with it a little bit. You already know how you can include Ollama as the chat model. And the last thing that you can also include is, of course, Open Router chat model. If you press on these, you can simply go to Open Router, you press on it, and here you have the possibility to use a lot of different open source models. And a lot of them are also available completely for free. But I personally do not love Open Router because, like, the Groq thing is basically the same thing but with faster inference. So if you want to use open source models, you can also use Groq, and with Groq they are a little bit faster. So in this video you have learned how you can connect every single LLM under the sun with an API. You have learned over the last videos how to connect the OpenAI API. You already know how to connect Ollama. These two nodes are the nodes that I personally use the most. OpenAI for most of my agents, because OpenAI is reliable, it's affordable, and it's great, especially later as soon as we make bigger, stronger automations with function calling. My basic staple is most of the time OpenAI. If I want to work locally, of course Ollama is great. But then there are some special cases. In some special cases you want to have a model that is extremely fast and cheap. Just use Groq, you can use it for free. In some other things you want to have a middle ground. Maybe you want to play with the Google models. The Google models are reliable and also cheap and really fast, so you can play with them. In other models you want to have, for example, really strong coding but without the reasoning. Here is Claude, for example, relatively good. Maybe you want to tell like engaging stories. Also here Claude has a great personality. And DeepSeek is for everybody that wants to reason for a really cheap and affordable price. But, like I said, DeepSeek has no function calling. This is, at least how I see it, the biggest downside of DeepSeek. So choose the right weapon for you. Like I say it right now, for 99% of the people, basic OpenAI models will do the job most of the time. Relatively easy, relatively reliable, relatively affordable. But this thing can change over time, and you should keep an eye, for example, on performance and on the price of all of these API providers, because like I told you, this thing will change. Also, Groq 3 from Elon Musk rolls out the API in these days where I am recording this course, and if they roll out something really great, of course I will include it in this course. So see you of course in the next one. Now you know how you can connect every single API under the sun.